Just imagine, the idea of being merely temporary residents in this world really gets you thinking, doesn't it? What does it mean to be here only for a short time? Why are we on this planet? And where will we go when our journey here comes to an end? This thought-provoking idea comes to life in a powerful letter written by the Apostle Peter, inviting us to look beyond what our eyes can see. Peter begins his letter with a direct and deeply meaningful greeting. He writes, "To the temporary residents, to the chosen ones." From the very first words, he makes it clear that our existence is not limited to the years we spend here on Earth. He speaks with the understanding that there is something greater, a higher destiny reserved for each of us. Peter uses a metaphor that has transcended centuries and remains profoundly relevant: temporary residents scattered throughout the world. At that time, Peter was writing to Christians who were facing immense challenges. Many were being persecuted for their faith, forced to live far from their homes, scattered across cities and provinces like Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. Each of these regions had its own traditions, customs, and of course difficulties. For these Christians, living their faith was far from easy. They faced prejudice, isolation, and even cruel persecution. Peter knew this and wanted to bring them a message of hope. He called them temporary residents, to remind them that, although this world was fleeting and filled with challenges, their true home was not here. Their home was not in this world of uncertainties and suffering, but in an eternal place, a heavenly homeland where love and peace would reign supreme. This metaphor speaks to us as well. Have you ever stopped to think about it? Everything we have, our possessions, our achievements, even our lives, is temporary. It changes the way we see things, doesn't it? When we understand that we are just passing through, we start to live with greater purpose. But what does it truly mean to live as a temporary resident? That's the question Peter invites us to reflect on. Returning to his letter, Peter not only acknowledged the challenges those Christians were facing, but also encouraged them. He reminded them that, even though they were living apart from one another, far away, and immersed in cultures that did not understand their faith, they shared something far greater: the promise of an eternal home. This promise was the foundation of their identity, a spiritual reality that transcended any physical or cultural barrier. Peter wanted them to see beyond the visible, beyond the immediate. He reminded them that they were united as one people, called to an eternal purpose. Imagine these people, living in communities where their beliefs were ridiculed, where they were treated with distrust, being reminded that they belonged to something far greater than any prejudice or persecution they faced. Peter was essentially saying, "You are not alone. You are part of a community of faith that goes far beyond this world. You have an eternal home." This message remains as powerful today as it was back then. After all, aren't we all in some way temporary residents? And if we are, how are we living? Are we focused solely on fleeting things, or are we seeking something that truly matters, something eternal? Peter invites us to reflect on this. Before we dive deeper into this journey of self-discovery and purpose, I want to remind you, if this message resonates with you, don't hesitate to share it. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and spread this reflection further. Many people like you are searching for a life of purpose. Let's share this message together so more people can find greater meaning in their lives. Imagine the weight of Peter's words as he wrote, "You are temporary residents." It's almost impossible not to pause and reflect. What does that mean? Are we all just passing through? And if so, what is the purpose of it all? These questions are at the heart of his letter, a powerful reminder that there is something much greater than what we can see or touch. Peter wasn't just writing for the sake of it. He knew exactly who he was addressing: men and women who faced cruel persecutions, who were far from their homes and communities, living in regions like Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. They were scattered people, isolated, constantly facing prejudice and rejection because of their faith. Imagine how hard it must have been for them to hold on to hope in such a hostile environment, where every day felt like a battle against discouragement and fear. It was for these Christians that Peter wrote, and his words were not just meant to console, but also to challenge and inspire. He reminded them that even though they were scattered across the world, facing trials, they were not alone. On the contrary, they were part of something much greater, a spiritual community united by an eternal purpose. He called them temporary residents, to emphasize that this world was not their final destination. It didn't matter where they lived or what difficulties they faced. Their true identity was not rooted in earthly circumstances, but in their faith and the divine promise of an eternal home. Peter wanted them to understand that despite their trials, they had something the world could never take away: a heavenly hope. He reminded them that their life on earth was brief, like a breath, and that the tribulations they endured were temporary. There was something far greater waiting for them: a heavenly homeland, an eternal communion with God that surpassed any pain or difficulty they could experience in this world. And in saying this, Peter was not merely offering empty words. He was strengthening their spirits, inviting them to lift their heads and see beyond their immediate circumstances. He wanted them to know that even though they were scattered and separated, they were spiritually united. This bond was like an anchor, an invisible force keeping them steady amidst life's storms. It was this that made them one people, a community of the chosen, with a sense of belonging and purpose that nothing could shake. Peter encouraged them to persevere, to keep their faith alive and their hope burning. He understood that living as a temporary resident was not easy, but he also knew it brought freedom. When we understand that we are just passing through, we free ourselves from the chains of materialism, from the pursuits of achievements and possessions that, in the end, are as fleeting as life itself. This allows us to see life from a new perspective, one where what truly matters is what is eternal. Today, Peter's message still resonates strongly. In a world where so many feel disconnected, lost, and searching for meaning amidst the rush and chaos, his words are an invitation to reflect. How often do we ask ourselves, what is my purpose? Why am I here? Peter answers these questions with a transformative vision. Our essence does not belong to this fleeting world. Our identity is not found in the things we accumulate, but in who we are spiritually. The idea of being temporary residents is not about resignation. It's a call to freedom. It is a reminder that, although we are here now, something greater is waiting for us. This perspective can completely transform how we live. It challenges us to focus on what truly matters, to seek a deeper connection with what transcends the temporary and the material. Peter concludes his letter with encouragement that transcends generations. He invites us to persevere, to keep the faith, to live with purpose even amidst difficulties. He reminds us that while we are here, we can remain united in spirit, sustained by God's promise. After all, our true homeland is not of this world. It is eternal, glorious, and waiting for us. What a powerful and transformative message, isn't it? Just imagine for a moment that the life we live here, in this world, is not the final destination, but merely a phase, a chapter in a much greater journey. This was the powerful vision the Apostle Peter shared in his letter. He invites us to look beyond what is in front of us, beyond the challenges and immediate achievements, to something much deeper and eternal. Peter begins by calling us temporary residents. That phrase alone provokes reflection, doesn't it? If we are here only for a short time, what is the purpose of it all? Why were we placed in this transient world, and what truly matters during this brief journey? This is exactly what Peter invites us to ponder. He reminds us that while we are living here, we are being shaped and prepared for something infinitely greater, a divine and enduring reality. This concept of transience does not diminish the importance of our lives. On the contrary, it gives meaning to everything we face. Peter invites us to see every experience, every challenge, as an opportunity for growth, for strengthening our faith, and for deepening our connection with God. He calls us to look beyond the material, beyond the temporary, and to focus on what truly matters: a spiritual mission, a purpose that transcends immediate concerns and values. But this doesn't mean we should ignore our responsibilities or the challenges of the present. Peter makes it clear that living as temporary residents requires courage. It's a way of life that inspires us to face every obstacle with the awareness that everything here is part of a greater plan. Our actions, choices, and behaviors become a reflection of our commitment to something eternal. And then, Peter presents an even deeper concept: being chosen. Imagine being called chosen. This is not about privilege or status. For Peter, being chosen is responding to a divine call. It is accepting the invitation to live a life of purpose, guided by values that reflect God's love, peace, and justice. This choice is not random. It is intentional, made by the one who knows every detail of our lives, even before we were born. Peter explains that God, in his infinite wisdom, predestined us for a journey marked by faith. From the very beginning, he knew who we would be, the paths we would take, and the purpose we were meant to fulfill. Isn't that incredible? To know that our existence is not an accident or a coincidence, but part of a perfect plan? However, with this choice comes immense responsibility. Being chosen, according to Peter, means living with commitment, clarity, and intention. It is aligning our lives with divine values, rejecting the pressures and expectations of the world. It is a call to personal transformation, to live in such a way that our brief time here echoes into eternity. And this is no easy task. It requires effort. It demands sanctification, a continuous movement toward God, adjusting our behavior and values to align with what He expects of us. Peter illustrates this responsibility by speaking of the sprinkling of the blood of Jesus Christ. He paints a rich symbolic picture, referencing the priestly system of the Old Testament. In those times, the sprinkling of blood was an act of consecration, a seal of covenant between the people and God. And Peter uses this language to remind us that we are indeed chosen, but we are also called to live in obedience, in covenant with the Creator. Finally, Peter challenges us to live with a joy that transcends difficulties. He reminds us that, while we are here, our true homeland is not this fleeting world. We have a heavenly home awaiting us, an eternal promise that gives meaning to our journey. This promise gives us strength to face any adversity, because we know that our brief time here is only the beginning of something glorious. So, what does it mean to be a temporary resident and chosen? It means living with purpose, facing life's challenges with courage and hope, knowing that our true identity is rooted in something eternal. Peter invites us to reflect, how are we living our journey? Are we focused on what is temporary, or are we seeking what truly matters? That is the beauty of Peter's message. It is not just a comfort, it is a call to action. It is an invitation to live intentionally, aligning our lives with God's divine purpose and preparing ourselves for the glorious destiny that awaits us. Imagine living in a world full of challenges, uncertainties, and moments of trial, yet knowing that a greater purpose guides every step of your journey. This is precisely the powerful vision the Apostle Peter conveys in his letter when he calls us chosen and heavenly priests. He doesn't speak merely of a spiritual title, but of a transformative calling, an invitation to live with purpose and meaning, aligned with God's eternal values. Peter introduces us to a profound and symbolic concept, the sprinkling of the blood of Jesus Christ. In the context of the New Covenant, Jesus is seen as the high priest who purifies and consecrates us, making us part of a divine plan that transcends time and space. This sprinkling is not merely a symbolic ritual, but a sacred act representing the unbreakable bond between God and those He has chosen. It is as if every drop of blood symbolizes a commitment, an eternal covenant that transforms us from within, empowering us to live a life dedicated to the divine purpose. But what does it mean, in practice, to live as someone chosen? Peter helps us understand that being chosen is not about privileges or accolades, but about responsibility. It is a call to be active participants in God's work, reflecting His love and presence in every aspect of our lives. This requires us to adopt the mindset of a heavenly priesthood, where our actions and choices become a visible manifestation of divine holiness. Every word, every gesture, every decision becomes an opportunity to express God's light to the world. Peter challenges us to embrace values such as integrity, generosity, and peace, incorporating these attributes into everything we do. He reminds us that living as heavenly priests is more than following rules or rituals. It is about transforming our lives into a continuous reflection of God's will. Imagine this. Every small action in your day, from a kind gesture to how you handle challenges, can be a demonstration of God's love and faithfulness to those around you. And Peter doesn't stop there. He makes it clear that living as someone chosen requires more than just good intentions. It is a constant commitment to personal growth, inner transformation, and service to others. He reminds us that our existence is not limited by time or material circumstances. We are part of an eternal mission, a journey that transcends barriers and connects us directly to God's love. This mission is, above all, an invitation to love and serve unconditionally, following the example of Christ, who lived and died with an unshakable commitment to the divine purpose. This calling is transformative. It not only challenges us to become better, but also strengthens us. Peter reminds us that, even in the face of the toughest challenges, we are not alone. God is with us, guiding our steps and giving us the strength to move forward. He calls us to live intentionally, to consider how our words, attitudes, and actions can positively impact the world around us. Each day becomes an opportunity to reflect Christ's character, to be a source of light and hope in the midst of darkness. Peter also wishes for two essential things in the spiritual lives of Christians: peace and grace. According to him, peace is not merely the absence of conflict, but a profound serenity that comes from fully trusting in God. It is the kind of tranquility that endures, even when everything around us seems to be falling apart. This inner peace is a divine gift, rooted in the certainty that God is in control and that He cares for us in every circumstance. Along with peace, Peter speaks of grace, this divine force that not only comforts, but also empowers us to face life's trials. Grace is not something we can earn or achieve. It is an immeasurable gift from God, given to sustain and strengthen us. It is this grace that helps us persevere, maintain our focus on what truly matters, and continue our journey with hope and faith. Ultimately, Peter invites us to see our lives from a new perspective. He reminds us that being chosen is not an end in itself, but the beginning of an extraordinary journey. It is a call to live with purpose, to positively impact the people around us, and to be a living representation of divine love. Every moment of our brief journey here echoes into eternity, drawing us closer to our true spiritual home. Peter reminds us, with striking clarity, that this journey is much bigger than ourselves. It is about being part of something eternal, something that reflects God's love, faithfulness, and promise to all of humanity. By embracing this mission, our lives become fuller, more meaningful, and aligned with the divine plan that was laid out for each of us from the very beginning. This is the true power of being chosen, to live a life that makes a difference, that transcends, that transforms both ourselves and the world around us. Imagine yourself living in a world full of challenges, where every day feels like a struggle to hold on to faith and hope. Now imagine that despite it all, you have a promise so powerful that it sustains your heart and guides your steps no matter what happens. This is exactly what Peter seeks to convey in his letter, a call to live a life filled with purpose, rooted in faith, and strengthened by a hope that goes far beyond this world. Peter begins by reminding us of something profound and transformative: the grace of God. It is not just an abstract concept, but a force that renews us, restores us, and enables us to face even the most difficult moments with dignity and perseverance. For Peter, grace is what allows Christians to live in accordance with the divine calling, overcoming challenges with courage and confidence. It's not about perfection, but about trusting in the strength God gives us to keep moving forward. He teaches us that living according to God's teachings is not simply about following a set of rules. It is so much more than that. It is an act of love, a genuine expression of trust in the divine plan. In Peter's view, obedience is total surrender, handing over our fears, desires, and worries into God's hands. It is a decision to live with humility, recognizing that we are part of something infinitely greater than ourselves. Peter speaks of a peace that surpasses all understanding. It is not the absence of problems, but the assurance that, even in the midst of storms, God is with us. This peace is born out of a deep trust in God's love and faithfulness. It is like a safe harbor that keeps us steady when everything around us seems to be falling apart. But at the heart of Peter's message is the concept of heavenly hope. He calls it a living hope. It is not static or empty, but a vibrant force that transcends our earthly life and points to a heavenly home, an eternal place by God's side. This promise is what sustains the chosen ones, both in the past and now, reminding us that no matter how hard the journey may be, something incomparably greater awaits us. For the early Christians, this hope was a source of unshakable courage. Many faced severe persecution, isolation, and marginalization because of their faith. Yet this hope kept them firm. It was like a spiritual anchor that helped them keep their eyes fixed on God, even when the world seemed to crumble around them. They knew their faith guaranteed them an eternal future with God, and that gave meaning to everything they endured. Today, this same hope continues to echo in our hearts. Peter invites us to look beyond the immediate, beyond the here and now, and to see that our earthly life is merely one chapter in a much greater story. He reminds us that our true calling is to live aligned with a heavenly purpose, connected to an eternal reality that transcends everything fleeting. This hope shapes the way we see the world and how we live our lives. It teaches us not to cling to material things, but to focus on what is eternal and meaningful. With this perspective, every challenge and every victory becomes part of a greater divine plan. We begin to see each moment as an opportunity to reflect God's love, peace, and grace in everything we do. Peter inspires us to live with purpose, knowing that we are just passing through this world. He invites us to view our lives as a journey toward God, where every step, every choice, is an opportunity to demonstrate our faith and spread light around us. It is a call to live intentionally, with our hearts focused on what truly matters. In the end, Peter wishes peace and grace for everyone. But he isn't talking about superficial peace that depends on circumstances. He speaks of an inner, profound peace that comes from fully trusting in God. It is the serenity that remains even in the face of difficulties because we know we are sustained by divine love. Grace, on the other hand, is God's gift that strengthens us. It is not something we can earn, but something freely given to empower us to persevere. It is this grace that transforms us and gives us the strength we need to face trials with hope and faith. Peter reminds us, with clarity and passion, that our life here is just the beginning. We are called to live with purpose, aligned with God's eternal plan. It is an invitation to embrace a greater mission, to be reflections of divine love, and to live in a way that truly impacts the world. And this is precisely what makes his message so powerful and relevant, both in his time and today. Imagine for a moment that the life we live here, in this world, is like a small bridge, a crossing that connects the present to the eternal. Every step we take, every decision we make, shapes not only who we are today, but also the impact we leave for tomorrow. This is exactly what Peter teaches us in his letter when he invites us to live with purpose, as temporary residents and chosen ones of God for a heavenly priesthood. Peter begins by reminding us of a powerful truth. Our time here is brief. Yes, the days pass quickly, but they hold immeasurable value. This doesn't mean our presence in the world is insignificant. Quite the opposite. He encourages us to see this short passage as an incredible opportunity to make a difference, to live a life that echoes far beyond our human understanding. And to do that, we need to ask ourselves some important questions. How are we using our time? Are we investing our talents in something that reflects love, hope, and truth? Are we building a legacy that transcends the material and reaches the eternal? These reflections help us reorganize our priorities. Peter is not talking about seeking high positions or status, but about living with intention, with purpose, dedicating ourselves to others with love, compassion, and integrity. He teaches us that the concept of a heavenly priesthood is not about being superior, but about being servants. It is about reflecting God's light through our actions, our words, and how we treat those around us. When we live with this awareness, we begin to see life in a new way. Every difficulty, every victory, every struggle takes on a greater meaning. Nothing is wasted. Every challenge brings us closer to God, teaching us to trust in Him, and every achievement becomes a reflection of the faith we carry in our hearts. Living with purpose means understanding that even the hardest moments are part of something eternal, something being built with patience and love. Peter challenges us to look beyond the distractions of the present, beyond the fleeting values that often surround us. He invites us to focus on what truly matters, what is lasting, what is meaningful, and what is that? It is the love we show, the peace we share, the hope we cultivate. It is how we use each day to reflect God's presence in us and positively impact the world around us. And do you know what's even more incredible? Peter reminds us that we are not alone on this journey. Our time here, no matter how short, is neither empty nor purposeless. It is preparation for something much greater. We are moving toward a spiritual home that God has prepared for us. It is this living hope, this eternal promise, that sustains us. Even when we face challenges, we know that everything is shaping us for something glorious yet to come. Peter encourages us to find purpose even in the smallest gestures. He reminds us that every act of kindness, every word of encouragement, every choice made with love contributes to a greater divine plan. When we live this way, our lives become living testimonies of this heavenly hope. We show the world that we are not living merely for the present, but for an eternal promise that connects us directly to God. In the end, living as temporary residents is not about ignoring the reality of earthly life, but about seeing it in a new light. It is about recognizing that while our stay here is brief, it carries profound meaning. Each day is a new opportunity to leave a mark, to reflect divine love, to be a source of hope for those around us. And as we do this, we live with the conviction that our true home is not here, but with God, in eternity. This vision of Peter challenges us, but also strengthens us. It inspires us to live uniquely, aligning our lives with God's purposes. It is a call to make a difference, to value each moment, and to walk with the certainty that everything we do here is preparation for what lies ahead. And that, my friends, is living with purpose. It is living as someone who knows they are just passing through, but who leaves an eternal impact with every step. Imagine for a moment a life completely dedicated to what truly matters, to what transcends time and space. Peter invites us to reflect on how we are living, reminding us that our journey here on earth is temporary and that something far greater awaits us, something eternal. He challenges us to see life from a different perspective, where our daily choices and actions can reflect the eternity that lies ahead. Peter presents us with a transformative idea: to live as someone who knows they are just passing through. This vision isn't about ignoring the challenges of daily life or dismissing achievements, but about understanding that these things are merely parts of a much larger journey. He invites us to focus on what is lasting, what leaves a positive impact, and what reflects the love and goodness of God. To illustrate this, imagine two people. The first spends their entire life focused on accumulating wealth, recognition, and status. They work tirelessly to achieve goals, build an admirable reputation, and acquire material possessions. But at the end of their life, when they look back, they realize that all those achievements, no matter how impressive they seemed, were confined to the material world. They left no lasting impact. Now picture the second person. They also have their goals and accomplishments, but dedicate much of their energy to building meaningful relationships, helping others, and sharing their faith. At the end of their life, what remains is not just the material wealth they accumulated, but the seeds of love, kindness, and hope they planted in the hearts of those they encountered. This example helps us understand what Peter means when he talks about living with purpose. When we realize that our stay here is limited and that our true home is with God, every action takes on new meaning. We no longer see our daily tasks as mere obligations, but as opportunities to express God's love and compassion. This frees us from the pressure to seek validation by the world's standards and allows us to focus on seeking divine approval. Peter encourages us to live with intention, with a greater purpose in mind. This can manifest in even the smallest actions of daily life. Think, for instance, of someone who notices another person going through a difficult time and decides to help them without expecting anything in return. It could be a coworker who needs support, or even a stranger on the street facing hardships. By offering a word of encouragement, a kind gesture, or simply being present, that person is fulfilling a divine purpose. These small acts of compassion may seem simple, but they carry eternal weight. Imagine the difference a smile, a hug, or a comforting word can make in someone's life. These actions are like seeds planted in people's hearts, seeds that can grow and inspire even more acts of kindness and faith. Peter also warns us about the distractions of modern life. Often, we are led to believe that success is measured by how much we accumulate or by the admiration we receive. But he reminds us that our value and purpose do not lie in these factors. Our calling is much greater: to be light in the world, to spread peace, hope, and the love we have received from God. This calling can be answered anywhere, within our families, at work, among friends, or even with strangers. Peter's perspective helps us stay focused on what truly matters. Each day is a new opportunity to live with purpose, to be a living representation of divine goodness, to leave a mark that transcends the material and touches the eternal. When we live with this mindset, we realize that our challenges, difficulties, and victories are all part of a greater plan, a plan God has designed for each of us. If this message touched, encouraged, or made you reflect, share it with others. By spreading this vision, we help more people find meaning in their lives and live according to the divine purpose entrusted to them. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, where you will always find content that strengthens your faith, nourishes your soul, and helps you live aligned with God's plan. In the end, Peter teaches us that living as a temporary resident is an act of faith. It is recognizing that we are here for just a brief moment, but that we have the opportunity to leave an eternal impact. Our life is preparation for something far greater, and every gesture, no matter how simple it may seem, can be an expression of God's love and grace in the world. So live with purpose, live with intention, and make each day an opportunity to reflect the divine light.